make him stay, Merv. Don't let me leave, Merv. Don't let me leave, Merv. No! 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 No!
Once again, another sequel to a genuinely great original IP fails to live up to expectations, and for some reason I have to feign being surprised because I risk coming across as being repetitive, since lately it feels like it's been the same old story time and time again with my dislike of the films Smile 2 and Venom 3. But I also do need to add as a bit of a caveat that my intention isn't to create rage bait content as much as I do want you to click on this video and enjoy it. So when I say something like Gladiator 2 sucks or that it's a piece of steaming pile of poo, then please know that yes, I might be expressing myself in a facetious way, but I do genuinely try to express an honest opinion of the content, whatever it might be, and sometimes it happens to be in a negative way. Which is what happened with Gladiator 2, because there's so much of this film that could have been promised to be grand and spectacular, but that just ended up feeling flat, and in some places kind of ruined my enjoyment of this world and period that the original film covered. I have to enter spoiler territory to explain, so please check out the movie for yourself so that you can form your own opinion first, and I'd love to genuinely discuss it further with you down in the comments below if you felt differently to what I'm going to say next. Okay? 3, 2, 1, let's go. The opening of this film tries its best to start off with a bang, but it fails to actually make me invested in the protagonist of this story. We get introduced to Lucius and the love of his life, which, yes, is trying to bring an emotional element to it, but it doesn't really work well because we still don't know much about who he is or what he's like, and the simple act of seeing someone with their partner isn't that too uncommon. I hate to always compare things to the original, but it's worthwhile examining why that film works so well in the first place, because in the original Gladiator opening, we meet this protagonist in the middle of a battlefield as he's been pondering on something deeper than fighting endless wars with men from different lands, and we see all of this build up with his relationship to his emperor, to the men that he leads, and to his trusted confidants, all before finally getting to see him thinking about his family and spending time with them. Throughout that first 15 to 30 minutes, we get such a great introduction to this noble man who exudes charisma, leadership, honor, and all of the qualities that make you fall in love with this hero that you're going to follow on this epic story. In comparison, Gladiator 2 just has some guy who has a lover that they sort of have a special bond between and who really just love each other a lot. I mean, it's like nothing in terms of emotional weight. Moreover, as soon as I saw her show up on screen, I knew within 5 minutes that she was going to die, and that would be the sort of catalyst to spur him on later on in the film. What a slap to the face of the original, where we have such a powerful and almost shocking betrayal of Maximus from losing his army, his reputation, his position, his emperor and father figure, let alone his wife and then child. I mean, what are we doing here in Gladiator 2? Yes, both films are essentially revenge stories, but in the first Gladiator, to me, Maximus wasn't fighting to bring his family back, not even to avenge them. He was fighting to keep their spirit alive, to be with them in combat and in death. And even if they were vengeful motives or even actions, it didn't feel like bloodlust revenge. It felt more like he was honoring their memory in battle. And if you want to know more about my thoughts on why the first Gladiator still holds up today, check out my video on it, link down below. All of this emotional weight and quote-unquote build-up in Gladiator 2 by comparison is just so generic, dumb, and cheesy. It just serves as a quick way for him to get to the first battle, which in and of itself feels also kind of weird and deflating as you watch CGI ships roll on in to attack on land with CGI cannon blasts hurling great balls of fire back and forth. Which brings me to further discussing the action set pieces throughout Gladiator 2, which were just some of the worst things I've ever seen in terms of CGI fight sequences. And I just don't know why or how it got to this when they already knew how to do these things well in the original. Okay, you want to do things you couldn't do in the first one by, say, having sharks in the Colosseum. Great, good idea. Let's do some crazy shit shit, I'm all for it. But when your sharks look like the worst computer-generated animals that I've ever seen in my life, or at least do not even look remotely realistic, then what the hell are we doing here? The bloody shark in Jaws looked genuinely more terrifying than whatever was being done in this film. I don't understand. And you can tell just like the amount of times they used longer wide shots from above to hide and mask the shitty CGI by showing just these black shadows moving through the water instead of the actual sharks themselves, because the few times that they do pop up, you can actually see how bad they look like up close. And the same goes with the monkeys. And I mean, this one was like a starker contrast compared to the sharks, because it really looked like Paul Mescal was just fighting with himself, and then these monkeys were being animated later on. I mean, it was just so bad looking. At no point did I have any illusions that this was actually real or that he was in any danger. It was just a CGI monkey. And I think back to that original film and its first fight in that same sort of gritty arena, which just felt so much better and ballsier, with just these men being put to their most basic and primal of versions to battle it out in this abandoned arena in the middle of nowhere. I mean, how good is that? The only animal I could give a semi-pass to was the rhino, but that was it. I feel like more budget went into the cast, the crew, and the thousands of extras, let alone marketing that's being done for this film, than the actual visual effects department, and I don't blame them at all. They were probably getting shit all money in the first place for such stressful work that they had to deliver in a ridiculously short amount of time. So I feel for them, and this is probably not a true representation of their work. I also do want to express that the few fight scenes that were actually between actual actors in the film did feel so much better because it felt incredibly more realistic. That's what Gladiator 2 was best at, and I only wish they had more of them. From the rest of the story's point of view, the only other semi-redeemable quality was the use of Pedro Pascal's character as a general or lieutenant who wanted to rebel against the emperors and was actively taking steps to do so. I thought initially he was just going to be another villain type character, but hey, there was a little bit more to him, and it was a bit of a twist in a good way. Nothing amazing, but at least it was different and somewhat interesting. Everything else just fell flat and had no build-up. Like, I have no real investment or passion for Lucius's story, even if it was similar to the original, with him just wanting vengeance and revenge for his wife and fallen comrades. He just came across as someone who was way more about anger and bloodlust, as opposed to Maximus, who was, yes, vengeful, but also went through different stages of defeatism and of leadership, and who gained respect from others, who valued strength and honor above all, who was kind to those who were innocent, and who was sympathetic towards those who didn't know any better. He was just a good man, put into terribly difficult situations, not some angry soldier who just wanted blood for blood, an eye for an eye, and who comes across as a bit of a hormonal teenager who just whines a lot. Oh, but at least he was taught poetry. Which finally brings me back to the actual villain of this film, with Denzel's character, who I thought was going to do something smarter and different compared to the two idiotic, brainless, childish emperors that are just so unmemorable and dumb that I don't even want to give them any more attention than I've already done so, because they truly don't deserve it. But Denzel's character ends up sort of doing the same shit by the end that they did, and it doesn't make any sense. At one point, he is literally talking about how he wants to have revenge by not being like his attacker or the person who he is acting revenge upon. But his idea of doing so is to replace the emperors and the system of rule in the Roman Empire with himself as the person who will rule with that same iron fist. What? You are literally doing the exact same thing that your predecessors did, that you hated that were being done to you, and you even know that you want to get revenge the right way by not doing the same thing, yet you still do it. I don't get it. Let me emphasize this line that you quote again. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury, which comes from Marcus Aurelius, who owned you as a slave of Rome. And now that you are in his same position, you're doing the same shit by wanting to rule Rome with the same old slaves, games, wars, under this cruelty of an emperor monarchy rule? What is the logic behind all of that? I just don't get where and why, and what are you doing in the first place? And please, somebody explain to me, where on earth was he heading when he decided to leave the Colosseum at the ending on horseback and ride out to meet the incoming army that were coming to Lucius's aid? Denzel's character is the biggest cooked chook in the whole entire film, and that scene was up there with the dumbest of them all, on par with the whole scene dedicated to the Senate praising a freaking monkey as the replacement emperor after seeing the most horrendous looking prop of the decapitated emperor's head being held by Denzel, and that absolutely looks nothing like him. What is going on in this film? Gladiator II should not have been this bad, and for 2.5 hours of a movie that seemed to promise more on the action spectacle that many of us enjoyed from the first film, this is a spit in the face. Moreover, it takes the legacy of Maximus Decimus Meridius that we all loved so much and still adore, and almost tries to ruin it by giving us this softball of a sequel that sort of ties itself to the greatness of the past, but which really should be left alone and far away from anything that is close to the original. Thankfully, Gladiator II doesn't ruin the original's tremendous story and timeless legacy, but it did feel like it almost inadvertently wanted to.
You have something in you. I knew it from the start. Did you now?
This is about survival!
What is the dream from?
Look at him, he's wearing a belt. That's Hollywood for you.